Daith da, Nakan. Welcome to podcast number 114. Since last week's podcast, I'm a year older. This evening's Thursday, and 'twas my birthday yesterday, and I got to thank everybody for your birthday wishes. Oh, it was fantastic. We're really busy at work at the minute, and on my birthday usually I do get a chance to go on Facebook and, see some of the messages, but I didn't have a chance. I did start this morning, 6:15, I'm there in bed, and I started scrolling down through them there. But I must thank everybody who sent me their messages. Really appreciate it. I can't believe where the years go. 'Tis frightening, really. But yeah, I was born on Friday the 13th, which could explain a lot. My mother, she's so superstitious, and I was due on the 11th. And I went past the 11th, then the 12th, and then sure enough, 3 o'clock in the morning, Friday the 13th, I arrived. Dear of her. I don't think she was very happy. But thank you anyway. It's been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I worked all day. I did get home for tea, a little bit late as usual. And Beth had made a handsome pasty. It was handsome. Lovely pasty. And then I got on actually editing a bit of the podcast for tonight that I'm doing. And then I went for a quick run. And then I did the wages. So that was my birthday. As far as the rest of the week goes, since I spoke to you last, we had a dear friend's funeral down Padstow Church last Friday, dear Ali, and we've known her for years. Some of her childs went to St Izzy School, where Ali was a teacher, and 'tis a Church of England school. And the vicar at the time, when our kids was there, was Julia Wilkinson, sadly no longer with us. And she caught me on the hop, really, one evening. She rung up and said, "Oh, can you do a favour for me? To only be a couple evenings a year." I said, "Oh, yeah, what's that then?" She said, "I want you to be a school governor." So I thought, well, that shouldn't take too much time. So I thought, yeah, go on, I'll do it. Well, I tell you what, I was out of my depth, really. I really was out of my depth. And Ali, she was a great support. And I'll always, really thank her for her support when I was a governor. And I was for a few years, but time-wise with work, I couldn't commit the time I needed to, really. But we did have a lovely service, and the choir, in-tune choir that she sings in, they did a lovely song down there too. I didn't really work much on Saturday, but Sunday I was working all day. And because of that, I couldn't get to the Remembrance Day service. It's a bit different to when I was a boy here in Wadebridge, because you got the cenotaph up there at Coronation Park. And when we was in St John Ambulance, that's where you would go and to lay the poppy wreaths. And I think that a lot of them on the perhaps Town Council, British Legion, I don't know, but they decided that it was very difficult to get up there. Not everybody could get there. So they did do another memorial there in the park. 'Tis where the putting green used to be. When we was kids, that was a 9-hole putting green. And the service was there. Our dear friend Don Whitten, he took the service. And I was hoping to get over, but I was working. I couldn't get there this year. But I did go up Coronation Park in the afternoon, and I managed to take a photograph of the cenotaph looking down over Wadebridge. And I did put that on our RJ Bray Facebook page. But, hopefully I can get there next year. You never know with work. You plan something and a phone call alters everything. I've actually been pretty busy putting photos on our Facebook page this week when I think back of it. Normally, like our Facebook page, it's the same as our website where we put on the death announcements if somebody passes away, to let people know and to let them know when the funeral is. And I would say, 95% of people perhaps put it on the website, 90% on Facebook. Not quite so many on Facebook, but most of them do go on Facebook. And then the newspapers, a lot of people don't seem to do the newspapers anymore. But I think the beauty with Facebook is that families then, once they see it, they share it And I can see, it just gets the word around, and people find out all the details they need. But I do put photos on in and out, and I put the one on from Remembrance Day I just talked about. And then Monday, we was in St. Petrock's Church in Bodmin. So Friday it was St. Petrock's Padstow, Monday St. Petrock's Bodmin. And this was for the funeral of Jean that I've known for a long time, and her boy Dan. And I was going to say I've run a lot of marathons with Dan over the years, but that ain't quite right. We do the same course, but he usually finishes about an hour and a half before I do. So we perhaps start fairly close to each other, but he finishes a lot quicker than I do. But it was a fantastic service. There was a hang of a crowd there in Bodmin Church. But the photo I put on was outside. There's two gargoyles where spring water is coming out into a trough there. And there is a well there, St. Guran's Well, which is close to the door that we go in, which would be the west door, I suppose, wouldn't it? Yeah, the west door. But there is a spring under the church, and this water comes down and comes out these gargoyles. And up until recent times, they reckon that was the main supply of water in the town in Bodmin. And they reckon 'twas crystal clear, beautiful water, beautiful drinking water. And like I say, I put this, it wasn't a photo actually, it was a video I put on, and it was kind of just a little quiz, really. I said, anybody tell me where this is? Well, of course, all the locals knew straight away. And if you're driving through Bodmin, just before you get to the roundabout there, church is on your left, you can see it from your car. So I put this little video on, and then I was on a roll because Tuesday I put some more photos on. And this was because we was at the tube station, Methodist Church, there in Poseth. And I know I've mentioned the tube station before, but I don't know if I put photos on last time. But I did this time because I did say in the little paragraph with the photos that it's the only church or chapel that we go to where there's a half pipe at the front where you can ride your skateboard. I've never seen that in any other churches we go to. And then you stand back and it's fantastic because they got surfboards hanging from the ceilings. Lovely place. And the feel is just so relaxed. You know, we had the funeral there for Annie and it was a lovely, relaxed feeling, even though it was packed. I mean, they were standing at the back and people everywhere. But it was a beautiful vibe there, I must admit. And of course, what a beautiful setting, looking down over the beach there at Poseth. And of course, we've been in the crematorium quite a few times this week with such varying funerals, from the 8:30s where no one's there to the 9 o'clock funerals where you're allowed up to a dozen people there just for a 10-minute service, going right the way through like Jennifer's funeral. Another lady I've known for a long time with doing family funerals for, her family, where it was packed, people standing outside. So there's such a big variation. And Wednesday was the busiest day. Yesterday was the busiest day of my week. I was here, there and everywhere. It included doing Rose's ashes. I did inter Rose's ashes up St. Teth. And that was a nice to be doing it on that day because, like me, 'twas her birthday. So I thought that was a good choice to bury her ashes on her birthday. The sun was shining. It was beautiful. And then we was back to our chapel for Ronnie's funeral. Ronnie, we kind of tied up with like family ways because Ronnie's sister married me cousin. So there was a lot of our relatives there for that one. And then we was at our chapel again today for Ivan. So, it's been a busy week. It really has been a busy week. And we've had some real, variation in funerals, from very small with nobody there. And again, this morning, we had a big funeral at the crematorium. Loads of people there. And I know I've said before that I think it's lovely. You've got so much choice now. You have got so much choice. If you don't want anyone there, you haven't got to. But if you want a normal service, you can have whatever you want. 'Tis proper, really. Right, well, I think that's enough from me. I've gone on a bit too long this week. We're now over to Liz, and Liz is a darling. Known her a long time now. Lives in Nanstallen, but I didn't realise she was a Camelford maid, really, and then moved to Bodmin. I've got some fantastic memories of Bodmin years ago. So I'll hand over to Liz now, and then I'll speak to you directly with me Cornish bits and rounding off like I normally do. So, here it is. Get on, Liz. How be knacking?
I'm fine, David.
Proper job.
All the better for seeing you, dear.
Oh, dear of me, dear of me. Well, thank you for letting me come here to Nanstallen tonight. And I think we'll go back to the beginning, where you was born, your family and all, if that's all right.
Yeah, the very beginning for me was Camelford, number 7 High Street.
Oh, yeah.
And my mum was Ethel Second and my dad was Frank Second. Now, Ethel went to Camelford to work on a farm for Routley's to look after their 2 little girls, Marjorie and Hilda. And she was thought a lot of there. They thought the world of her. And she met Dad, whose parents was running the Conservative Club in Camelford at the time, just like caretakers. And eventually they got married. In 1942, they had my brother Geoffrey. And 4 years later, I come along, 1945, and Geoffrey was to give me my name. And if I was a boy, I was going to be called Monty. And if I was a girl, I was going to be called Elizabeth. So I thank God I wasn't a boy. Time went on and I had a very happy life in Camelford, knew everybody. One or two things that I remember sticks out in my mind was a nail behind the letterbox with a bit of string hanging down with the door key on it. And why they did that, I don't know, but I don't think we was that well off, so I suppose really there was nothing worth pinching. But I think that everybody must have done the same thing. Went to school in Camelford and had 2 lovely teachers in the infants, Miss Pern and Miss Aylett. And I remember having to learn to write my name. And it was 9 letters long on both sides of the name, I think it was anyway. And it was a long white strip of paper and on it was written Elizabeth II. And I had to copy that. And I always used to think, why didn't I have a short name like my friend, Anne Collins? But anyway, eventually, sadly enough, my dad lost his sight. And he used to be an indoor wireman for what was then the Cornwall Electric Light Company.
Oh, right.
Which was then became SWEB, South Western Electricity Board. And he couldn't obviously work. So he got sent up to Torquay to a place called American Lodge, where he was trained to do the telephony, where you stick the wires in holes and everything.
Because you'd have to get through to the person in the switchboard to put you through.
That's right, yeah. Anyway, he also learnt to do the typing, braille, how to play darts. It was amazing what they'd done in that place. But of course it meant we was without our dad for a little while. Times was quite hard, I think. We used to go to bed early with Mum and have a jug of cocoa and sugar sandwich.
Where was the school to then in Camelford?
Up where the police station.
Oh, yeah.
At the top there.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a police station now.
No.
But just on the beginning of Ballytruckle.
Was it a big school then? Or?
Well, it done all the infants and the juniors,
Yeah.
But I would say probably about 15 to 20 in a class. Like. Yeah, but I was always very happy there. But I remember coming to Bodmin on a bus with Mum, and I think it was somebody called Stan Adams, if my memory serves me right, had this bus. And the seats was made of wood, with planks running along. And I always remember Mother sitting me on a bit of newspaper because I didn't travel very well. But we come to Bodmin to see my gran. My gran was Elsie Gin. And she had 9 children, one deceased at birth, I think. But so there was 3 boys and 5 girls. Well, of course, the girls all had different surnames, didn't they? They had Johns, Fitzpatrick, Warren, Seckham, and Pedler. But they all stayed in the vicinity.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So, of course, when we come to Bodmin to live, I went to the county primary school because that's where my cousins went. And back then, you seem to be very close to your cousins. Nowadays, they don't seem to know each other so well, do they?
What age was that then? You moved
I was
to Bodmin?
8.
Right.
And went to Bodmin County Primary. Mum went to church school with her brothers and sisters, and she told me that when they was at school, they'd have to go home. Dinner time, they lived at Bediniel.
Right.
But they didn't have time to get home, so Gran used to come in prison steps with a pram, with a saucepan in the pram, and she said it was supposed to be stew, but you never found a bit of meat in it, but it tasted handsome.
Okay.
I always remember Mother telling me that. Yeah, so, Bodmin County Primary School, very happy, enjoyed every minute there, and become a Saturday girl. Oh, prior to that, before the Saturday girl, used to go Dougie Blake's cafe, Coronation Cafe, and buy a glass of orange juice that would last all afternoon. And people say kids aren't so good today, but we had our naughty ways, you know. Doug would open up a packet of cigarettes and he'd sell us one for £2, 2 old pennies. We all thought it was big.
Yeah.
I don't suppose we really smoked them properly, but
No.
going Coronation Cafe and buy a cigarette was a big deal.
So with the gins then, is any of was they tied up with the building firm?
Yeah, Dick Gin and Alan Gin and Ken. They was my first cousins.
I see, yeah.
And, all that family, all of my mum's brothers and sisters tied in with St Lawrence's Hospital, must have had a football team in there, really.
Yeah.
His Uncle Bill was a charge nurse. My mum and Auntie Anne and Fitzpatrick and Madge Gin. Oh, well, we all ended up in there, really.
Because I know they used to say St Lawrence's was like a little town in itself, really, wasn't it?
A town within a town. I actually wrote a bit of poetry about it when we used to have the fellowship for the retired members of St Lawrence's, and took you all the way through because it had everything in there, hairdressers and, well, just everything. The dentist used to come in and everything you can think of.
They had their own gardens,
gardeners,
food and that,
And some of the old male patients would go down to St Lawrence Farm.
Yeah.
You'd see them walking down with the male nurse
Yeah.
to do a bit of farming. Really, they had it good in there. It was lovely because they had clean sheets when they needed them. They had baths when they needed them. And majority of them never worried about wars and things like that. They just lived their lives from day to day, you know. And the nursing care, really, in my opinion, was second to none. And all that's gone there, isn't it, really?
It is, isn't it? So after the primary school, then how long was you there? What age did you move from there? Or
Well, I went there as a Saturday girl. I was about 14 for Mrs. Blake. That's what made me think of Coronation Cafe.
Yeah.
And she had a baby shop at the top of Honey Street. And, well, I didn't know it, but she thought I was going to stay there and work for her. But they was advertising for cadet nurses in St Lawrence Hospital, and the pay was very good. And when you leave school at 15, you're thinking, where can I get best paid? And I went for an interview. I remember that it was quite traumatic. I didn't like sitting in front of matron and just going through the papers. But anyway, I was lucky enough to become a cadet. And then, of course, that's where I met Jim in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the week that I met Jim properly, I was coming home from a music lesson. Mrs. Pons, mother scrubbed doorsteps, really, to pay for me to go there before she went nursing, because she didn't think she would like it, nursing, but her sisters and that said give it a try, and once she got in there, she loved it, you know.
Yeah.
And I was walking up the pavement by Pasco's fish and chip shop, and Jim came along and he said, "Oh, are you going to the social tonight in St. Lawrence's Social Club?" So I said, "Oh yeah, I think so." I was only 15.
Was he from a local family there, or what?
No, they'd moved down from London, Willesden, because his dad had lung cancer. It was a result of being a prisoner of war and that. And they thought that the air and that would be better for him down here.
Yeah.
And he went down to Tahiti and had the open air treatment and all that back then, didn't they?
Yeah.
They used to sleep him outdoors, or at least the windows was wide open and all that. And he came over to me, because Jim was 6 years older than me. I mean, he had no idea I was only 15. And he came over and said, have a dance like you do. And he said, I'd like to take you home. So I said, you'll have to ask me dad. And I didn't think he would. But Jim being Jim, he said to me, Dad, I'd like to take Liz home. So Dad had the next dance with me and he said, that young man wants to take you home. Do you want him to? Well, I was a bit shocked, really, because I didn't think he... Only 15. But I said, oh, well, I wouldn't mind, because he was a bit of a looker, in my opinion. And he said, OK, but Mother and I won't be far behind. So he walked me home. Well, then he said, can I take your pictures? Well, I never had a free night. Paul Street Chapel, in the choir, down Paul Street Chapel. Night school Tuesday, night school Thursday, music Friday. Every night was St. John's Ambulance. Everything was took up. So I sort of turned him down. And then I kept thinking, I wish I hadn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, luckily enough, he did ask again. And twin long after, before there was no night school Tuesday, no night school Thursday.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, but I missed a very good gap in my life, really, which was when my brother was in a skiffle group. And there was a young lady from Weybridge that played a wind guitar in the skiffle group.
Right.
And she was called Scanterbury.
Oh, right, yeah.
I can't remember her first name now, but she was quite a pretty girl. And they used to go all over the place. Derek Willis let them practice in his garage, and he would take them in his buses to wherever the dance was. Yeah. Sometimes it was down Charlestown, sometimes Padstow. And this was before I met Jim. And Jeff would say, can Liz come, Mother? And Mother'd say, well, you've got to look after her, mind. And off I'd go with the skiffle group. Yeah. Loved it. Yeah. So I really was quite mature at an early age, shall we say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but loved every minute of it, really. And my brother, he played the drums, and he kept eye on me, and boy did he keep an eye on me. His mate was Ivor Bunny, and if Jeff wouldn't keep an eye on me, he told Ivor, watch her. But yeah, it was lovely. He became editor of the Cornish and Devon Post, my brother.
Did he?
Never had a grammar school education. He went the same school as me, Bodmin County Primary, and his reports used to read, Jeffy would do much better if he didn't spend so much time looking out the window. But I think he done pretty good, really.
Did, didn't he? Did that.
Yeah, bless him. He's still living. He's up in Teignmouth now. They went to Spain for several years, but they come home now because they're older and don't want to be one left out there on their own, basically. No.
So what was life like in St. Lawrence's and working?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I knew everybody that worked in there. I could just about name them all to you now, really. Yeah. We used to have to, as cadets, go down Camborne once a week on the train, and we used to be at Bodmin Station and go out to Bodmin Road. I had to be up there about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Go out Bodmin Road, which is now, what is it, Bodmin Parkway?
Bodmin Parkway.
Can't never understand that either.
No.
And cross over the bridge, and then down to Redruth and get on the bus, and then out to Camelford. But then Frida, my friend Frida, who you know as Mrs. Ely, I expect, she passed her driving test.
Right. Oh.
So then her dad, who was very kind, he said, right, Frida, you can take the car. We didn't have to get out of bed early.
Exactly.
And we used to give her 2 and 6pence each.
Yeah.
Old half a crown each, and she would drive us down and drive us home, and we'd be home hours before by the time you got the bus and then the train.
Yeah.
And we used to have the great fun together, really. So we formed a very good friendship, and like now there's 6 or 7 of us that meet up occasionally and have a meal now. Vivian Clapton and I don't know if you know Vivian. Joy Long, do you know Joy Long?
Yeah.
Joy. Frida. Sue Knott. Well, Sue Trevenna that is now. Sonia Osborne. Oh, and Joan Cotho. We go out like Lanavit Inn or somewhere and have a little meal, catch up, which is great. And that's like 60 odd years of friendship.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was great. Really good.
So when did you leave St Lawrence's and what was it?
Well, Gloria and John Cothu took on the shop in Rock Lane. And I used to work, obviously Gloria was in on the wards, and she said, Lizzie, we want somebody to come and work at the shop. Well, I worked every weekend when I had the children, and I would love to have had the weekends home with Jim, because you had to pay your mortgage, so you worked when you could.
Yeah.
Although Mother was very good. But we never had a lot of time together. We was very often like ships passing in the night. So I said, look, if you can give me the same rate of pay as they pay me in here, I'll come and work for you. So I left and went to work for Gloria. But then I had really bad sciatica. And I know they couldn't do it on their own without one extra person, because John was running the laundry in St Lawrence's. So they got Maureen Pascoe, that was, to go and work there. And Gloria said, when you're better, you've got to come back. But I couldn't do it to Maureen because she'd been there a long time then.
Yeah.
And I went down Raymond's then, Fruit and Veg.
All right.
And I was down there for 13 years with them. In amongst all that, somewhere as well, I worked at Lanavit Inn for Joe Lewis and Ilda. And it was just charring out there, trying to have more time with Jim. And Joe said to me one day, Liz, will you do the dinner time bar? So I said, oh my God, I've never done anything like that. He said, well, I really only want you to do it Thursdays whilst I go playing golf with Mr. Pokenhorn. He said, Hilda will be in the kitchen making pasties, so if you want her, just give her a shout. Well, he hadn't been gone 5 minutes and in come a busload of RAF.
Oh, no.
My hand was shaking, the pint was going all over the counter. I called Hilda, she never come.
Oh, no.
So they was asking for all these drinks, and I think they could tell that so I said, look, you tell me how to make it and I'll do it, like sort of thing. But that was another funny experience, shall we say.
When did he get married then?
1960. I was 17. Yeah, Jim was my only love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where was that to?
That was Paul Street Chapel.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. And thinking about Paul Street Chapel, my cousin Barbara and I, because I had to go Paul Street when I was a child, because my great-aunt was a caretaker down there. And Barbara Fitzpatrick, Barbara Jones it is now, I expect you know Barbara as well, don't you? We used to have to go to Paul Street Chapel, and we was in the choir. I still sit next to her now, out Millpool in the choir. And she would say to me sometimes, let's sing down with the men. And we'd go, rah, rah, you know. And there was a lady called Doris Richards. Right. Doris, I think she was a cook over the police station. She used to play the organ. She was choir mistress. Mm-hmm. And she would slam her hands down on the keys and she'd say, somebody ain't singing their part and I know it is. And Barbara would say, we better start singing. It was a bit wicked. So I said to you, kids aren't no different now to what we was back then, really. No. Yeah, so we got married in Paul Street. And of course, that's gone now. That's a car park, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember, I think he was called Borlace, came with his motorbike and his little helmet and all. I got a photograph somewhere where we bought us a telegraph from Jim's auntie and family up in London that couldn't get down for the wedding. And we went out to St Mirren in the caravan for our honeymoon. Didn't have no money, see? I mean, Jim got married in his hospital suit. Because they used to provide the men with suits.
I see.
Yeah.
So where did he live to when you got married then?
Then, Camel Valley Cottages down Dunmere. By this time he'd left nursing because the money wasn't enough for a man really to pay the bills and everything. And he went down the co-op because before he got called up to national service, he worked for International. So he went down Bottom Co-op as manager.
Right.
And this lady used to go in, Mrs. Reynolds, she was called, and she used to go in and get her groceries in there, or put her order in. They used to write in a little book, didn't they? And
that's right, yeah.
They'd make the orders up and have them delivered. The delivery bloke, Peter Lobb, he was sick or something, and Jim thought, oh, this woman's waiting on her groceries, I'll drop him in on the way home. And he dropped him into her and he said, I don't suppose you know anybody that's got a house to rent. And she said, well, my handsome, I don't. But she said, I got a house for sale. She said, and you seem like a nice young man. Okay. She said, I'll take that house off the market and you can have it. 30 bob, that was £1.10.
Right.
A quarter moon, not a week.
No.
A quarter moon. And she said, we'll make up a book and everything and do it right. Anyway, that came about and we moved down there to Camel Valley Cottages. Oh, and it was our palace, if you like, little tiny sitting room, long passage, but we loved it. Jim would tell you how many yards it was to the toilet because it was right down the bottom of the garden. He hated that bit. A tin bath in front of the fire.
Yeah.
And she used to come on the quarter and collect her rent, £1.50. And I said to her one day, I got a migraine. And she said, well, my dear, you got the cure in your garden.
Right.
And I said, sorry? She said, feverfew. Make yourself a feverfew sandwich and that'll cure your migraine.
Right.
Yeah. So she knew what she was talking about as well, I think. Yeah. So anyway, I think she come, but I think she was like an auntie to Victor Legg. And yeah, lovely lady. Years later, I was walking around the Priory Pond with Julie, my daughter, and I met her. And I said to Julie, this lady was our guardian angel. I said, she took her house off the market for your dad and I to have a home of our own. She said, don't never thank me, my dear. Oh. She said, I had it on the market for £1,000 and I've just sold it for a lot more than that. So she got her,
Yeah.
And she deserved it, didn't she?
Exactly.
And there was a lady next door, Mrs. Ellery, on the end cottage.
Right.
And she had a little shop in there. And, when we was kids, we used to go down Dunmere and go swimming up by the dam and that.
Yeah, that's right.
And you'd come back and go in Mrs. Ellery's and get some sweets. She knocked on the door one day and she said, excuse me, dear, do you mind me asking, have you got stair carpet down? Well, of course we didn't. We didn't have no stair carpet down. She said, I was wondering if you did. So I said, well, no, we haven't. I said, I'm sorry, are we disturbing you going up and down,
Yeah. And
she said, oh, no, dear. She said, we can't hear you, but I've got a stair carpet that used to be in that cottage. Right. Yeah. She said, you're welcome to it. And everybody back then was like that, really kind, And in with the stair carpet come the tin bath. Great big long thing. Yeah. Then we used to argue at the deep end.
So who else was your neighbours down there then?
Mr. and Mrs. Crowell.
Aye, I've heard Mother talk of her before.
Mr. and Mrs. Crowell down the far end. And then there was Mr. and Mrs. Bate. And he was a like a blacksmith, smithy.
Oh, right.
But he made gates and all in St. Lawrence's.
I see.
And they had a son, I think, but he was grown up and gone away, But I'd put Julie out the back in the pram and I'd go out to get her, and next thing I knew she was in Mrs. Bates, and she used to make her own butter because they had a little small holding up the top of Dunmere Hill there, where I suppose Home Bargains and that is now.
See, yeah.
And she used to make her own butter, and I'd go in there and there'd Julie with the crust of her own made bread with butter left on it, sucking away.
Well, thank you, Liz. That was proper. I think we'll stop it there because that kind of finishes living down Dunmere, and then I think next week we go to when you moved back into Bodmin. But 'tis funny, really. I go round to all different houses, as you know, to do the recording, and I've got me routine. I set up my tripod, get the microphone fitted, and then I've got this switch that I click, and I thought it would cut out any interference. Because I know once I forgot to do it, and I did get quite a bit of bad interference. So I was talking to Liz. I said, right, I'll just flick this switch. That cuts out the interference. And I did it. But I don't know if you heard it or no, frustratingly, about half a dozen times, there was that little bit of interference. So where I thought I cured it, I am. So I'm going to have to look into that a bit further. Twins so bad as the ones I'd done before. And I hope it didn't spoil your enjoyment, because 'twas lovely to hear Liz. I could sit and listen to her all night. She got a lovely voice. So, sorry about that, but I just don't know how to cut out that interference. And I don't seem to get it everywhere I go. But there we are. We'll get to the bottom of it. As you heard there in the conversation there with Liz, a lot of her early life was at St. Lawrence's Hospital, which was a massive part of Bodmin, really. So I thought that's what my Cornish word would be for this week. The Cornish word for hospital, which is clavgy. Clavgy. And for me Cornish dialect, it have got a bit colder here the last couple of nights, I must admit. And you see people saying now 'tis time we put the heating on, because we have been lucky, really. It have been pretty mild. But there's a lovely Cornish dialect word, if you nice and warm, and 'tis called gridley. Gridley. So you'd say, God, 'tis proper gridley here, sat in by the fire. Proper gridley, sat in here by the fire. So that's me Cornish dialect for the week, gridley. Right, well, that's it for now. I'll leave you now, and I'll speak to you again next week with part 2 of Liz's conversation. So, wish you well, do Guinness, Carno Bisfican.